How original.
Hi, I'm Steven. Today, we're going to go over what I demonstrated in our last video. Let's learn about music. In our last video, I showed you how playing a drum pad a different number of times, each time the metronome played a beat, created different rhythms. Starting with once per beat, we have quarter notes. Now to 2, we have eighth notes. 3 times, we call triplets, and 4 times, we call 16th notes. Let's focus in on the notation and how these notes actually relate to each other. Let's start with the quarter note. The quarter note is a filled-in circle with a line attached to it. To get to an eighth note, we just add a flag to it. Now you're going to begin to notice a pattern. Every time we add a flag, it's going to cut the note value in half. So when I put a flag on a quarter note, it's going to cut the value in half to create our eighth note. So it's going to be 2 eighth notes for every 1 quarter note. Next, we have a 16th note, which just adds another flag to the eighth note. So now we know that a 16th note is half the value of an eighth note. So it takes 2 to equal 1 eighth note. So now if I take 2 per eighth note, and there's 2 eighth notes per quarter note, that means I have 4 16th notes per beat, or 1 quarter note. Let's say that you want to play a note that goes longer than 1 beat. You can play a half note, which is essentially a hollowed out quarter note. This plays for 2 beats. Next, we have the whole note. The whole note is going to play for 4 beats, and it's basically a half note without the line attached to it. Now, let's look at triplets, because unlike eighth notes, 16th notes that just divide in half, triplets need to have 3 hits per beat. So eighth notes, you normally have 2 per beat. To make it 3 per beat, we need to connect them all together, add a 3 at the top, and add some squigglies to put it together. So it's going to encompass the whole 3 notes, creating a single beat. Now 16th note triplets is going to be half the value of 8th note triplets, the same way we use that flag principle. Now the final thing I want to cover in this lesson, and it's vitally important, is rests. It's important to know when to play, but it's equally vital to know when not to play. So let's take a look at the rests. First, we have a whole rest. So this is going to be for 4 beats. The whole rest is basically just a little bar. Next, we have a half rest. Also kind of a bar. Very similar to the whole rest, but this is only going to rest for 2 beats. Next, we have the quarter note rest. I hope you're noticing a pattern. This is going to be for 1 beat. Then we have eighth note rests. This looks a little different. The quarter notes we could just add a flag to create an eighth note. Eighth note rests are pretty radically different from the quarter note rests, but the same flag principle applies from here. So if I add another flag to it, I get a 16th note rest. So all the values, in the same way the notes work, the rests work the same way. Now, let's look to see how we can use rests in our next video on simple rhythms. I'm Steven. Thanks for watching.